Hey everyone, it's the Photo Techie. I hope you're all doing well. Today's video is the performance review of the Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma. Now, I won't be talking about the price because the price fluctuates a lot, but it was supposed to be 150 British pounds and I believe 150 US dollars, but I have seen it on sale for 100 pounds every now and then. Even right now, last night I was checking the price, and here in UK it was 120 British pounds in Argos. What you get in the box is the controller. We get one extra, this long thumbstick, and we get two of your standard height sticks, and we do get one dome one, but I've lost mine because there is no carrying case, and you know, being an adult man, I wasn't able to look after the dome stick. But decent amount of accessories. I wish there was a carrying case so I could keep it protected, but yeah, we don't get that. Next up is the build and the feel. The build quality is quite nice. The plastics used and these rubberized grips do feel very premium in hand. I wouldn't say this is as premium as the Elite Series 2, but it definitely feels more premium than the standard Xbox controller. The design is very wide, and when you hold the controller, if you're not thinking about the back buttons, it's a comfortable fit. But once you start thinking about using these basically the back buttons in the middle, things get a little bit interesting. So I can see why they've designed it this way, the shorter grips and very thick. They are thinking that people are going to keep their ring and the middle finger on them all the time. So if you do that, you can sort of like, you know, this comes in handy, these thicker grips, and you can hold it this way. Unfortunately for me, this is not something that I'm very comfortable with aiming, because I do need that sort of like grip. Is just, I guess, years of playing like that. I find it very difficult. So what I find very comfortable using this controller is basically pushing the hand a little bit upward so I have more leverage on the stick, and only just keeping my middle finger on that top back button and keeping these two, my ring and little finger, just there. And this way, never before actually I've had a controller where I had to get my grip absolutely right. So before every match, I was making sure that I had my grip absolutely right. And then, yeah, it's actually a comfortable feel. So I think for most people, you know, we can learn the grip. And if we put enough time in, we can find the right grip. I wish the buttons were a little bit further outwards, the back ones. But all in all, I would say it's definitely a comfortable controller, and I think most people definitely can get used to it. I'm going to run an Xinput test, and you'll see that this is a very consistent 250 Hz controller, and unfortunately it's polling rate locked, so I haven't been able to overclock it to 500 Hz like some of the Xbox controllers you can, but it is a very consistent connection, and I don't think anybody will have any latency issues on the controller. So this is the Razer's app that you need to set up the controller, and you can name the controller whatever you like, and you can create as many profiles as you want, but you can't change them on the fly. You have to come into the app to switch the profile. The app is available on Xbox and PC, so you have it available on the console, and it actually works fully functioning on console as well. So I'm just quickly going to show you guys what you can do in the profile. You can name the profiles, you can duplicate it and stuff, and if we go into the Edit tab, the first we have assign buttons. Unfortunately, this is only for the extra buttons and the menu and view button. This assign button doesn't have the option for the actual buttons on the controller. So for instance, if you want to disable the thumbstick buttons, like left or right stick click, you can't do that. So you can disable any of the assignable buttons. So like menu and view buttons, you can actually disable them. But you cannot assign a different feature to one of the normal buttons or disable them. But the option for the extra buttons, one unique thing here is you have the option to assign a menu and view button as well to one of your back buttons. So if you are playing a game where you have to press them and you don't want to take your thumbs off the aiming or the movement stick, so you can assign the menu and view to one of the backs or the top two buttons. And they have this thing called the sensitivity clutch. That's a feature that you can assign. All this does is it gives you different settings of how much of the stick movement you want to cut out. So you can cut 50% of the movement out. So if you press one of those extra buttons, you can decide whether you want the left stick to cut out or right stick or both of them when you basically press that clutch button. And then if you press and hold, your stick will only go to the level that you've set. So if you set to level 5, then it will only go to like 50%. If you set to 6, then it will go to 60. If you set 7, so it will go to 7. So you can decide how much it is. It's not something that I've ever been able to get a use of, but if someone out there who wants to lower it's not lowering the sensitivity. Your in-game sensitivity will still apply. This will just cut the travel of your stick that you've chosen. The other thing they give us the option for is, yeah, so there's thumbstick sensitivity. This is for the clutch option that I was talking about. So you can change that if you have assigned one of the buttons. Then we have the dead zone option where you can change the amount. Out of the box, you will have 4. This is the default, and I think these are 10%. And then we can change them to 1%. I'll talk more on these in the stick section. But yeah, you can change it here and it will save onto the controller. Vibration, you can, it will vibrate once you come in here, and when you change, you can sort of like feel how much it is, the intensity and stuff. And I think default is 10. So yeah, it stays at default 10. And then lighting, it has different, it's got spectrum, static, breathing and stuff. So if you want to change the RGB, the brightness and stuff, or if you want to disable it, this is where you do that. Other than that, not much in the software. We don't have a manual calibration option. We don't have an option to change the stick response curves or anything like that, or manually adjust the response curve or different settings. But yeah, decent software. So the phase buttons are one of those micro switches. Razer called them mecha tactile buttons, and they do feel very nice to press. If you're somebody who plays Claude, they can be very difficult to press because the force needed is actually higher than some of the other tactile buttons I've used, but they actually do feel really nice to press. The D-pad is 8-way D-pad, feels very, very nice. Now, I'm somebody who sometimes like to, use the right thumb whilst I'm running in Call of Duty to use it. I've never had any accidental actuations of the wrong inputs or anything like that, so it feels very nice. But for fighting games, I don't know if it's a very useful thing to have, the 8-way D-pad and stuff or what they're doing. But yeah, it definitely feels very substantial and very nice to press. Next up, we have the triggers. There is a one-stage trigger stop that cuts 50% of the trigger pull. But what interesting thing is, when you have no trigger stop engaged, you have the linear press. I'm going to show you guys this on the gamepad tester. So right now, on the left trigger, I have no trigger stop engaged, so I have 0 to 100. If I engage that, it cuts 50% of the trigger pull, but what it does is, it will go to 0 to 10 linear, and then it'll just do 100%. And then when you let go, you have to come back to that 10th level, and then it will let go. So it's not that it just go instantly. There is a little bit of a travel that you have to go through to do the 100% register. So if you have a game that takes a certain amount of register for a gun to fire, it's not going to be instant. It's not like 0 or 100. There is a little bit of a pull within that 50%, and then it will do 100% register. In use, I have to say they work really well. Playing Call of Duty was absolutely not a problem. Rapid firing a single fire weapon was a really good experience. And the whole design of the trigger is really nice as well. The matte paint they've used and how the fingers land on them, the feel of the trigger is actually really premium. So I think they could have cut out a lot more travel, but I am happy with the 50% cut that they've used and the way they actually work. I can actually quickly fire tap and stuff. So for my use case, yeah, they work perfectly. Bumpers are very nicely placed, and they have those micro switches, the mecha tactile buttons as Razer called them. And they are actually very good to use. So every time I needed to use a field upgrade or a tactical or whatever, it actuated exactly when I needed it. So I do really like using the triggers and bumpers. Definitely a very premium experience on the Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma. Next up, we have the back buttons. So there are 4 placed in the middle at the back, and we have 2 next to the bumpers. And you can potentially actually use all 6. Now, like I mentioned in my ergonomics section, that I was able to basically keep my middle fingers on the top 2 the whole time. And if I needed to use, what I did was I had jump and crouch. So like I usually do in a 2-button configuration on opposite side. And then the bottom ones I could actually use for a left stick press or a D-pad input. And then what I did was the top 2. So I had the weapon swap on the right bumper here, and I had the reload on the left one. And it's insane what you can do with these top bumpers and the back. Basically, once you have your grip right, this is actually a really solid experience when you want to use a slide cancel, jump shots, weapon swaps, whatever you think that you want to do. This actually works out really well, but it does take a little bit getting used to. Now, I have seen comments from people saying that these back buttons develop play, and my left one is quite good, but my right one has a little bit of a play. So this is the one that I use for jump, and so I probably was using this more than the other one. So yeah, there is a little bit play here. This one seems to be okay. This one is definitely developing play, and I have seen videos where these basically break off because the point, the tension, because the way we press them, we sort of like pulling them inwards a little bit. So that potentially can be an issue. And then once that breaks, then you have to use the bottom ones if you're out of warranty like I am. This is a very old controller with not that much playtime, by the way. But yeah, then you have to use the bottom ones. The bottom ones seems to be very solid, but the top ones are can be an issue. We'll see, you know, if this happens to me, I'll update you guys. But so far, yes, I can definitely see more play on the top right one than the left one. But saying that, overall, I think this is a very solid experience. If that issue doesn't happen with the back buttons, I think once you get used to it, this is definitely going to spoil a lot of other controllers, because not only we have 6 buttons, we can actually use them. And it's a strange feeling to be able to reload and do everything without taking your thumb off the stick. It's like you keep that grip on. And it's, yeah, honestly, once you start getting used to it, you just don't want to play with another controller, because you can do so much with these 6 extra buttons. I just wish that what people are complaining about, that issue wasn't there. But other than that, yeah, a very solid back and the top button implementation by Razer. All right, the physical thumbstick caps. So these are magnetic, and you get the 2 short ones and 1 tall one. Unfortunately, the way they've designed is, first of all, the material is very slippery. That grippy material for my thumbs is so slippery. Like, there is no way I can play with nothing attached to it. And the other issue is they keep popping out when you go to the extreme corners. The shorter ones are, if you have nothing installed on it, it's sort of okay. But yeah, they keep popping out. Now, when it comes to Control Freaks, you cannot fit Control Freaks, Xbox or PlayStation, unless you are willing to modify them a little bit. Now, I'm not going to tell you guys to do this to your Control Freaks, but I'm just going to show you guys how I do that. But please do not hold me responsible if you end up breaking your Control Freaks. It's not something that I tell other people, but Control Freaks use a very soft plastic for their bottom thing, so you can actually adjust these tabs a little bit. So what I end up doing is just with a set of pliers, so I keep one is normal position, and I'll literally just extend the other ones out. And once I've done that on 3 of them, I can basically put that stick in there, the cap. So doing it this way, it's actually a secure fit, but you will see in a minute why this doesn't work. So I can nudge that sort of like cap in there. Now the Control Freak is on. I can put this onto the controller, and yep, I have the Control Freak installed there. But like I mentioned, when you push it all the way out, now I have extra weight. This keeps popping out so much. And yeah, it's a very strange experience. I wouldn't recommend, because maybe some really passionate gamers of you out there, you'll just completely knock it out, you know, the shorter one especially. But yeah, I was able to have a few sessions, but I just didn't like that feeling. The best workaround is if you use the tall stick that comes with the controller and then use some sort of grips. Now, I recently discovered these non-slip Control Freak grips. These are like very jelly-like sort of material. They are like lint magnets. They will just catch everything. But the grip, it's not like a Control Freak, like a performance stuff grip, but it's a very close feeling, very close with a lot of grip. Now, I use Skull & Co. Other ones as well, they are a very good option as well, but this is on a different level. And honestly, like, this saves a lot of controllers for me that can't have Control Freaks, and these are universal, they just get on. Very, very grippy. So the whole time that I played, I actually use these ones, and the experience was very good. Now, even with these installed, the tall grip stick actually pops out as well a little bit, but is not as bad because the weight is not that much, and you sort of get used to it. It's okay. So I think this is very usable and a very good option if you are thinking of the Razer Wolverine V2, or maybe even the V2 Pro. These do come in very handy. Now, one thing you guys might have noticed, that the shafts are very thick, and you might be thinking that we don't have enough active area for the stick. That's not the case. So I measured this. I'm quickly going to show you guys with some other controllers as well. But basically, what Razer have done here is, yeah, they are using a thicker shaft, but so is the diameter, the opening, the whole thing is actually much bigger than the other controllers. And I've measured this. So it's exactly the same amount of travel. So it's 20.5, the whole thing, and the shaft is 11.9. And then if I take the Xbox ones, So, and if I try and basically measure the opening of just the Xbox thumbstick gate, so it's 18.3, 18.4. So 18.4, and if I put the stick in and check that, is 9.5. So 11, basically it's around 5 millimeter of travel each side, 4.95 that I measured with my sort of like crude measurement, and it's the same. So don't think that you are not going to get enough active area. It's exactly like very similar. I've tested the PlayStation controllers as well and Xbox. Controllers do it differently, but most of the time, I think from like center to the end is around 4.8 to 5 millimeter. The only ones that I've seen that have a lot is the Nikon Revolution Pro 5 that has a lot of treble. It's like 7 millimeter, like if you are using the smaller shaft. But yeah, this is actually very close to a standard controller. Let's talk about the performance of these thumbsticks. So right now I'm in the dead zone section on the Razer's app, and I am on 1 dead zone. Now, if you've seen my true zero dead zone video, I showed that my stick on the Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma, they are sort of like drifting upwards. The center point, the spring sort of lost tension all the way up, and the center point is a little bit down. So I think this one setting is either a 1% dead zone or a 3% dead zone. I can't tell for sure. Why I say that is because every increment is going up by 3%. So right now I have 98 sort of registers showing, because what Razer have done is we have a 999 level. So very high resolution sticks, and there are 999 points. So this is like 10%, around 10% drifting upwards right now. So if I increase this to 2, you will see it will go to 60. So from that 98, whatever came to 60. So that's whatever the setting 1 was, this is another 3% increment on that. Now from 60, if I go to level 3, you will see it will come down to that 28, 29, so like another 3%. And then if I go to the last one, now it's not drifting, it will not show any register, it'll just come back to 0. So what I think is this is either this first one is 1%, and then we have 3, 3, 3, that's a 10%, or it could be it's a 3% and it's 12% dead zone. But unfortunately, the lowest we can go is 1, and there is no way of changing the center point, because I wish if I was able to just bring the center point up and then distribute this 8 to up and down, then I could actually use only 3 to 4% dead zone in game, not 7 or 8% what I need right now with the amount of drift that this one has. But unfortunately, we don't have that option, and for me personally, it's like one of the biggest drawbacks of these thumbsticks. So here in Gamepad Tester, you can see that my sticks are sort of like, drifting upwards. The right one, 6, 7, 8%, it can, stay out because the center point is not right. But these are ELF sticks, and what Razer have done is they keep calculating, because they are sort of like 999 points, so like 1,000 points in each directions and stuff. So very high resolution sticks. But they keep sort of like, always calculating and stuff. And these are ELF sticks, and they are like true raw output. There is no outer dead zone on this one. It's actually the physical thumbstick gate that's being treated as the outer dead zone. If I do the circularity test, you will see that it's actually going to make that sort of a hybrid, like a square and a circle shape. So this is basically just a normal way, like a standard controller will have this kind of thing. There is no outer dead zone. They are not trying to make a perfect circle. The sticks, if there was no outer thumbstick gate, they will make a full square, because 2 axes, and if you go 100% in every axis, it's going to make a square. So the physical thumbstick gate, when you use it that way, it actually makes this shape. Very good calibration. The outwards one, actually very, very decent. And I'm going to show you guys in the precision tester what the sticks do when we are within the 100% range. So right now I have no precision ring installed, and we'll see the 100% register from the sticks. And this is basically the shape. Like I said, it's a hybrid square and circle shape that it makes. Now, once I install the precision ring, these sticks, the way Razer have them programmed, basically there is no outer dead zone. There is nothing going on to the diagonals. They're not trying to make a perfect circle or anything like that, but you will see what happens within the 100% boundary. So now I have the precision ring installed, and I'm going to try to make a circle, and look at that. This is the result of having a true sort of like 0 outer dead zone. And so it's like a raw output, plus the resolution is higher on these sticks. So there is nothing going on to the diagonals. It's a very linear response, and I have to say, I feel that in game. It feels so smooth, so predictable. No matter the playstyle, actually is a very good experience. I even really loved controlling the recoil, no matter what type of weapon you use in Call of Duty. If you know the recoil pattern, jump shots while controlling the recoil was so easy. This is, aiming wise, I have to say they have done a really good job. And honestly, I think no matter what playstyle, whatever sort of like curve you want to use in the game, this will work perfectly because this is linear out. So you can use your own preferred dynamic, standard, linear, whatever you want to do in your game. This will work with all of them. And I honestly believe aiming is one of the strongest points of this controller. So my final thoughts on the controller. Razer has something really special on their hands, and if they just implemented that manual calibration option with a true zero dead zone, I would take those flawed back button design and I would try and sort of work around it and use this as my main controller, because it is honestly, aiming is absolutely on point. This is such a good response for aiming that you can choose whatever you want to do in game, and it shows like very good to aim with. Back buttons and the top buttons, they work like a dream. Honestly, I have to say, like, this, once you start using those 6 buttons, actually using the 6 button definitely spoils even the 4 back buttons controllers. What really lets it down for me, ergonomics aside, everything aside, is that force whatever that 1 or 2% dead zone, but no capability of adjusting the center point. Now, I am unlucky because I hate the drift upwards. I wish it was in any other direction and I probably would be okay. And I wish it was like towards the bottom, like that's how I usually keep my controllers. But unfortunately, for me personally, my unit, hey, that upward drifts really spoils it for me. And if Razer implement that, if they somehow give us the capability of changing the center point and adjusting the calibration again or something, like this can potentially be basically the ultimate choice. And like I said, I would actually try and, like, I'll make this my main controller. If I had that option, I will deal with the awkward back button position. I will learn how to use them because everything else works so perfectly. But because of that, I think there are other better options that, okay, don't have 6 buttons, but you have true zero dead zones and really like Thrustmaster eSwap X. So I think apart from that one issue, I think it's a solid controller. But if you're someone who can get used to of this design and you're looking for a controller, if you play Warzone and you need those extra buttons more than like, you want to ping people and whatever you're doing, this is potentially a really solid option, but it will highly depend on your copy where that drift is, what you prefer, because I have a feeling it's going to be different for different units. Like mine has up, your might have left or right or something with no capability of adjusting the center point, can be a deal breaker. And the back buttons, like I said, if it breaks on you out of warranty, that can be a big issue as well. But if Razer update the firmware and give us a manual calibration option, you know what? I will live with these back buttons. I will learn this controller. So that was my overview of the performance of the controller. I hope I covered everything that you were looking for. If I have left anything out, definitely leave me a comment. I'll do my best to reply to every comment I get. And thank you so much to everyone who subscribed. Your support means a lot. And thanks a lot for watching this video. Hopefully, I'll catch you in one of my other videos. Bye for now.